rejection by the opposition in Gambia. And joining me today, as usual, is my co-host, Edward Amara, all the way from Sierra Leone. Amara, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Kelleh, and I also join you to welcome all of our numerous listeners across the group. And we are here to discuss this all important topic about the Gambia. And we all know how Africa is and what normally happens when election take place. So this is an all important program, and we are going to relate it to the current situation into the Gambia and what we can also expect from subsequent election coming um, out of Africa. But we have to start with the main news or the headlines that are emanating out of Africa. First, we go into Nigeria. Nigeria have actually rejected millions of jabs sent to them as donation to the country. They have realized that most of the vaccines that are being donated to them from the Western world are actually short-lived. On that backdrop, the government made a thorough investigation through the Ministry of Health and Sanitation of Nigeria. They realized that the shelf life of those drugs were not long enough, and some of them were even supplied to the country in a space of 6 months when that was the shelf life. So the country has rejected it, but the international community are trying to dispute the fact. It could be a subversive move to deteriorate the African fight against coronavirus. We also go into Mali. 7 UN peacekeepers have actually been killed in an explosion. We all know Mali is facing a kind of controversial situation. We are fighting in the Sahel region against ISIS, Daesh, and other Islamic groups that are actually affecting the country. So today on Wednesday, 7 UN peacekeepers actually lost their life and 3 are seriously injured. Then we drop down into Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is on the verge of taking a mid-time census. The mid-time census, housing and population census, is actually meant to correct some of the problems or challenges that the 2015 census faced. On normal occasion, each country should conduct general census into a country after a space of 10 years. But Sierra Leone conducted our first census or the latest census in 2015, and now they are about to conduct another census in a space of 6 years' time. The current government have given it as an excuse that most places we are left uncovered and the area was not actually digitalized, and this particular census will give them the opportunity to put Sierra Leone on a map in the form of digital, and most of the data, all the data that will be taken in respect of the housing and population into Sierra Leone actually be going into a digital system. So each time they want to plan for the country, things like that will be very easy. And in Malawi, the former Minister of Finance and Bank Governors have actually been arrested on charges of fraud, but they have alleged witch hunt, why the government has decided to investigate them. So far, so good. These are some of the important news emanating out of the continent of Africa.
Thank you very much, Edward Amara. Brilliant is there. I don't know, it seems like that there is some kind of glitching from my end. Can you hear me, Edward Amara?
Yeah, I'm getting you very loud and clear.
Okay, perfect, because it's like I see my voice kind of fluctuating, so I thought maybe it's network. So we are discussing the topic, President Barrow re-election and rejection by the opposition. Very interesting topic, Edward Amara, that we are having here today. It's unfortunate that this is happening in Gambia, a country that just had a lot of political, went through a lot recently after the last president refused to accept election result, and we moved from a military dictator. Can you hear me?
I'm getting you loud and clear.
Okay.
I'm getting you loud and clear.
Okay. So we moved from a military dictatorship to a democratic rule, and now we are having this situation. So what do you make of this whole thing happening in the Gambia right now, Edward Amara? Give us a background of what is really happening. How did we get here?
Well, the Gambia have actually suffered from a lot of political intimidation. They had a kind of man who was actually leading the Gambia with an iron fist in the person of Yahya Jammeh, who ruled Gambia for up to 22 years. He subsequently lost election to Adama Barrow. people actually had little of no knowledge of Adama Barrow prior to his election, because we all know Adama Barrow was just a kind of business person who was somehow and sometime employed in England. He served as a security guide. He was serving as the treasurer of the political party. His overlord was arrested by Yahya Jammeh in prison. That gave Adama Barrow the opportunity to come into power, and with the coalition that was formed, Adama Barrow was actually elected, and based on the general acceptance of the opposition, because people had the intention to unseat Yahya Jammeh at all costs. Yahya Jammeh ignorantly accepted the election overnight. He changed everything. So when you see the election into Gambia, it was after they unseated the dictator who has led Gambia for 22 years with an iron fist. He left the country. And people were actually expecting Adama Barrow to be like a unifier, somebody who is a very good reconciliator, somebody who can actually set Gambia on the space of development and actually eliminate the past old experience of what people or the Gambians went through under the reign of Yahya Jammeh. Unfortunately, because of the treaty that he signed with the political parties that brought him to power, that 3 years after you rule us as president, you are going to step down. Now we elect somebody who is a substantive person who take out to the election. Adama Barrow negated on his promise. He claimed that he was elected by the constitution for 5 years time. On no account, he's all going to agree with the principle that they're outside the constitution of the Gambia. So he decided to form a coalition with a defunct political leader, a dictator who is now staying in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea. He took over the country. So I think the opposition felt betrayed. Adama Barrow was also a little bit shaky, because he knew that he must have a political stronghold. If he wants to continue leading the Gambia, he must have a political stronghold. And you are seeing the former TRC leader, who was one of the lead investigators into the crimes that we are committed into the Gambia by Yahya Jammeh. They went against the leadership of Adama Barrow. And Adama Barrow first year in office sacked 3 vice presidents who we are purportedly being recruited by the ruling coalition, so that they can learn, okay, they can serve as servant or steward under Adama Barrow, so that they can take over the affairs when he will agree to leave powers in the space of 3 years time. He refused. So the Gambia now, this election is a kind of test where we are going to see democracy has to continue, because Adama Barrow was the first after Sadat Jawara was being killed by his nephew Yahya Jammeh. So Adama Barrow now was the first elected president, and that happened in sometime in 2016. Now he's the second elected president into the Gambia on popular vote. So people were expecting him to dive into a way that he should actually hand over power peacefully based on the party arrangement. But he violated that particular political party arrangement, and now he's also elected on popular basis. So there are misinformation of how people are viewing it, because he has now formed a coalition with a man who most Gambians have condemned. A man who Gambians are thinking that he facilitated their destruction, he facilitated their incarceration, he facilitated their poverty, and he facilitated the division that is into the Gambia. Now he has now formed a coalition of those people. So when you are seeing the background of everything that is happening to the Gambia, it's a kind of misinformation. Nobody knows what is. People are even afraid of what may happen next, since the Adama Barrow now have been given the official mandate to rule on 5 years basis without any clause into his current leadership, as compared to the first one, which he was actually mandated by the clause to only rule for 3 years. Now he's now going for 5 full years time and without any intimidation. But now he's now with the tigers, he's now with the lions, he's running with the intimidators, the suppressors, who actually accumulated all the suffering that Gambians are taking today.
Thank you very much, Edward. That takes us to the first question here for the day. President Barrows, the first question here is, why did the opposition reject the election results? Like you rightly said, it's better to lay out, some of the things that you just mentioned here, so people can understand what is really happening in Gambia and why is the opposition rejecting the election result. We begin in 1994. A young soldier from Liberia went on peacekeeping. He returned back to the Gambia and did a military coup d'etat and overthrew the founding father of the nation, who has been in power for 3 decades. That is Yahya Jammeh taking over from Sekou Jawara in the year 1994. So when he took over in 1994, he said he wanted to restore democracy. He wanted to restore the rule of law, just like what we have today in Guinea, what we have today in Mali. It was a similar situation in 1994, a young man overthrowing a man who had overstayed in power. So Yahya Jammeh became a savior. So later the people know that he was going to stay in power for 2 decades and more, and he was going to oppress the people. I stay in Gambia between the year 2014 until 2016. I witnessed some of the leadership style of Yahya Jammeh. When I was in Gambia, you could not mention his name publicly. You can't stand on the street and just say Yahya Jammeh. It was a police state. There were a lot of people all around. When you mention the name of the president, you have to be investigated. You can't go on radio station and criticize him. You dare not. You would disappear the same day. So he was ruling the country with iron fist. There were a lot of things that were going on in that country. You can never criticize the government. So for years, the Gambian went through such oppression. And eventually, Adama Barrow came in as the Democrat. Then now again, we are seeing the same Barrow that took over. First of all, he promised the people that he would stay for 3 years and then he will organize election. He did not fulfill his promise. He stayed there for 5 years. Now he's trying to run for re-election. He now formed a coalition with the dictator that he removed from power. Someone he criticized yesterday, someone he called bad leader, someone that he and other people struggled to remove. He now make a coalition with that particular party just for him to stay in power. This says a lot to me, Amara, about African politics. You know, why I'm always skeptical about military leadership, about so-called saviors who come in African politics, who appear as if they have clean hands. They come on the table as if they are very innocent. Like we have one in Liberia today, Darius Dillon. You come on the table and then you present yourself as a clean person, but you have hidden agenda. You know, this is what Adama Barrow has proved to be. He came as a savior of the people, but now he has become the regular politician who come to deceive the people. They come just to get their own share of the national cake. He had no ideology, no philosophy, he had no conviction. All he wanted was money. And for me, this is what is going on. The rejection of the election result by the opposition, well, it's obvious. We know that he wanted to stay in power by all means, whether the election was free and fair, and we cannot say. And the opposition that is now against this election result were the same people that had a coalition with him when he first came to power in 2017. So for me, really, this rigmarole that we are having in Africa, we don't even know who are the villains and who are the heroes. We don't know the bad ones from the good ones. The opposition become worse than the ruling party. So for me, really, it has become a frustration for African people. Sometimes you don't know which direction to look anymore. The opposition is worse than the ruling party. Where do we go from here? Amara, for me, that's not a frustration.
Well, we have seen a kind of a political traitor that Adama Barrow is. I think their opposition rejected the result based on their Mr. Barrow. 6 years ago or 5 years ago, they had a gentleman agreement that Barrow is going to lead the coalition, and should they succeed in taking out Mr. Jammeh out of power, he's only responsible to rule the coalition for just 3 years, and he will give the power to a Gambian who knows a lot about Gambia, because Barrow has been in London for quite a long time. He served as a security. He served as a kind of treasurer for the political party that brought him into power through a coalition. So you must understand that Barrow had prior knowledge of Gambia, but he never went under the kind of torture, the intimidation, how Mr. Jammeh maligned, intimidated, tortured, incarcerated, and even prison, killed people, the Gambians, out of their own political struggle. So they saw him like somebody who could have been a unifier. Unfortunately, he has betrayed them. Now we are seeing another opposition who carefully manipulated the coalition party's constitution, used the national constitution to entrench himself into power. That was a very fantastic move, a subversive act that he cannot be credited on that. So the opposition know him personally, and they realize the type of man that is actually leading into the Gambia. If Adam Barrow has managed to betray an opposition that installed him into power 5 years ago, how true it is that we cannot suspect another nefarious or some massive act being undertaken by this man into power, because he betrayed the opposition. He has also betrayed the Gambians by forming a coalition with a political party that destroyed the Gambian economy, destroyed their life, and brought the economy of the Gambia to a land life level. Now, when you take situations like this, you watch at it, how certain are the Gambians that this man is not going to manipulate another team? The opposition rejected the election because they realized that Adam Barrow may be the truly elected president of the Gambia based on the dispensations of the National Electoral Commission, which is 52%, against the other coalition that was formed 28%, and the other people got the 30% that was remaining. Because when you add 28 plus 52 is 80, the 20% went to the other opposition leaders. Now, this man is in power. The opposition knows exactly that they are not going to succeed in even condemning the election result. But they realize that they are playing with somebody who could be a possible traitor. Now they have come. You watch at the Gambia, it's a very small country, maybe less than or above 1 million population, which economy have not actually been doing a very good. And since the departure of Mr. Jami, he exploited the economy and even stole huge amount, over $5 million. We had it, he went with it in Malabo, though he denied it. And people are actually watching at this scenario. They are rejecting the election result because they know that Adam Barrow could do anything, though they projected certain things that we are some of the areas where the elections were rigged. They talk about irregularities like deleting of voters' names on the registered, and some people we are not actually given the adequate, and some of those voters' names we are actually inflated. So they are trying to investigate in 14 districts of the Gambia to see where those things are happening. But arguably, those results are not adequate enough to nullify Mr. Barrow's election. But they are rejecting the election result because they know that Mr. Barrow has actually used a kind of, he maneuvered everything to bring himself into power. Unfortunately, we cannot trust the opposition, neither can you trust the ruling party, because Adam Barrow is just a constituent of that particular opposition, people that are now today into opposition. So what the Gambians actually need to understand about Mr. Barrow's election is the fact that he has now hired people who torture them to be leading with them. So they are rejecting the election for fear that when Mr. Barrow is elected, in a nutshell, the TRC result is not going to form any evidence basis for prosecution, and maybe those who perpetrated crimes into the Gambia will be given the liberty to continue being into power, destroy the Gambia, and that culture of impunity is going to be established. So they are using that moral way of preaching instead of statistical way. Now because statistically he has tortured them at the polls. Now they are using the moral. They want to conscientize the Gambians to realize their moral status, and also to know the heinous things that the ruling party has now collated with the Yahya Jammeh party. It's now like legalizing those guys who did wrong into the Gambia to be given the full right to continue doing their crime. There is nothing wrong they will see. In fact, all the crimes or most of those reports that have been suggested by the TRC for prosecution, as long as Mr. Jammeh's party is in power in the form of coalition, those things are going to be overlooked. So statistically, they have been beaten. So what they want now is trying to wake the moral consciousness of those people and see way to it so that Mr. Barrow can be kicked out of power.
Definitely. It's obvious, like you said, they are trying to conscientize the population, which is the right thing to do, because what Barrow is doing is going to undermine the rule of law, is going to undermine the democratic process in the country. Because, I mean, like you rightly said, Yahya Jammeh's party, most of the stakeholders in that party are already indicted by the TRC. okay, because they committed a lot of crime throughout the regime of the dictator. Now you build a coalition with that kind of party. How do you expect to prosecute the party leadership, the executive members of the party, when you already are in bed with them? They secure your re-election. So already you can see the foul play right there. Okay, but I really don't expect anything more, because this is the usual thing in Africa. The man takes over. He used the army and the police to oppress the opposition and then repress any uprising against him. And then we move to the next chapter. There's no accountability. There will be no persistent demonstration to make sure that people come to accountability. Adama Barrow is definitely going to ruin that country, because I have not seen any leadership from him. Jammeh, we criticize him for the way he handled human rights. His human rights record was bad. When he came to leadership, he was better. In a way, the infrastructure in that country was a little bit okay. They were doing well. The dollar, their currency was okay to compare to the Liberian dollars and the Guinea franc. All surrounding the Gambian dollar was stronger than even the Sierra Leonean currency, the Liberian currency, and the CFA. Gambian was doing better. The Gambian dollar. Okay, Jammeh was a Pan-Africanist somehow, even if he doesn't practice the philosophy itself, but ideologically he called himself a Pan-Africanist. Okay, he was not someone who gave himself up to European domination. So we saw that he has those kind of flavor, but in the human rights area, he wasn't doing well at all. But this other guy that came up, he's like, you can score him 0 on everything. He's doing nothing. He doesn't even understand the politics of the country. Like you said, he just came from London. He was a security guard there, and then they push him in a coalition that, accidentally they won the election. They were not even expecting to win. Okay, and then they won, and then this guy sat down, and then everything he's doing is going against the interest of the nation. He has stirred up tribalism. He has stirred up some of the things that can destroy the country. Those that helped him in the coalition, he made sure he demolished the entire coalition. So for me, really, I even see the Barrow guy going for third term, because that's the kind of vision he has. He wants to stay in power forever. Okay, so really, it's very frustrating. And I really pray that they use a democratic means to hold him accountable until he loses election in the next election, and so that someone who is level-headed can head that country. Otherwise, they are going backward. They are going backward. There's nothing good happening right now in that very sub-region, Liberia, Guinea, Gambia. Nothing good is happening. Okay, and there's Adama Barrow guy. Believe me, if you watch some of the clip, the way he addresses the nation, there's nothing he's telling the people. He has no plan. He's just taking loan from Chinese, That's all he does. And he has not done anything better than Jammeh since he took over. And it's very pathetic. He's using tribalism to stay in power, just like Jammeh did. So that takes us to the next question, which is, will the ruling coalition push for Jammeh's return or his prosecution? Of course, in my opinion, Yahya Jammeh, even though Yahya Jammeh himself was skeptical about this entire coalition stuff, he wasn't really into it, because he thought it was a trap, that they just want to use him. This guy wanted to use his party, because Yahya Jammeh is still popular in the country. So he wanted to just use his party to stay in power. So Jammeh wasn't convinced. But now that they won the election, I believe that Jammeh will be doing a negotiation with this guy, because this guy will be threatened by the strong opposition. They will try to undermine his leadership. So for him to be secure in power, he would like to bring Jammeh closer. And that would be a recipe for chaos. What's your take?
Well, I think Mr. Barrow is ruling country, the Gambia, under a system of divide and rule system, and he carefully eliminates opposition members to ensure that he continues staying to power. You watch at this. I'm not saying the opposition or the ruling coalition pushing for Mr. Jammeh's prosecution in the near future. Reason being, Mr. Barrow lost popularity with the coalition that is formed. I think each time you form a coalition, you give concession. And in giving concession, you must let go certain things and you accept others because you are going to agree on a kind of gentleman system. And when you want to form a coalition, you are not afraid to negotiate, and you do not negotiate out of fear. Having underscored that, watch at Mr. Jami political activities in the Gambia for 22 good years, and even when he went into Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, he never eliminated himself from any political activities into the Gambia. Although the treaty that went with him to Malabo clearly stated that he, Mr. Jame, should never involve into any political affairs into the Gambia. Unfortunately, he violated those principles at random, and he was given the absolute opportunity to intrude into the Gambian political activities, making announcement. And the fact is remain that numerically he's still popular into the Gambia. He has a stronghold. He established himself as a political party for over 22 good years. He has a lot of people who still reconcile with his political mentality, his vindictive nature. And some people are well established today into the Gambia because of his corrupt leadership style. So if you are given certain opportunity like that to people who never like what Mr. Barrow first coming into power, now they are now back into power. What do we do? They are not going to push for Mr. Jami's for what? Prosecution, because should they push for Mr. Jami for prosecution, a lot of heirs are actually going to rule into the current ruling government. And don't be surprised for you to see former ministers who serve under Mr. Jami becoming ministers under Mr. Barrow, because those people who are still key into the Gambian election, and they also facilitated Mr. Barrow's coming into power. And Mr. Barrow may not be able to rule because these people have been in the corridor of power. They know the propaganda of the Gambia system, and they're able to maneuver the system and carefully place themselves into areas that they do not belong to. So for him to be prosecuted, no. And as I rightly stated initially, he ruled in Gambia with a divide and rule system. I believe that before this time in the Gambia, you have tribalistic mentality.
Oh, and Amara, it seems that we lost him. The network over there will, hopefully he will return. So definitely this, like he was saying, yeah, Amara, network issue there. Hope you will return and then you'll be added so that we continue. Definitely, Adama Barrow is using divide and rule system in the country. Are you back? Edward, can you hear
I'm
me?
back. As I was saying,
Okay.
he in a divide and rule system. Now, as I rightly stated, we used to have tribalism into the Gambia, but under Mr. Barrow, it is now hyper. So it's like he decided to continue the same system that he took away from, or he took off from his predecessor, though he was not elected on the ticket of Mr. Jami, rather on a coalition ticket. They are not going to push for any prosecution of Mr. Jami. Rather, they are going to solidify and even overlook most of the recommendation of the TRC. And if you watch at the TRC report, are they going to actually look into the TRC report early? No, they're not going to look into the TRC report early, because he knows exactly that should he decide to look into the TRC report, it's like trying to prosecute most of those who brought him to power. However, we should also watch at it on the other side of the coin. Since Mr. Barrow is not a trusted politician, and most of those who now want to be appointed as ministers under his leadership, under his current dispensation, may have committed crimes into the Gambia under Mr. Barrow, under Mr. Jami. Maybe on the other side of the coin, or on the flip side, they may decide to prosecute or to use the TRC report as the source of prosecution. So meaning that indirectly he will be technically eliminating those who will brought him into power. So if that be the case, the coalition may withdraw herself from them, and based on, because they must have certain members of parliament who will be substantive in pushing for constitutional reform or one or two things. And those people were also elected because it was a coalition that come in. So Mr. Jami also is going to use this as a kind of pressure against Mr. Barrow's government to ensure that most of the TRC recommendations are dropped, because those whom Mr. Barrow did the negotiation with for him to be brought into power are actually part and parcel, or we are part and parcel of the crimes committed into the Gambia under Mr. Jami. Now they are now into power. To prosecute him, no. rather to solicit, so what, to, they are only going to make some kind of solicitation and make a confinement how to delay the entire PRC prosecution. And Mr. Jami could also in one or two ways want to entrench himself into power, as Yahya Jammeh did, because he has started betraying. Now he has been seen as a betrayer, as a traitor from the coalition. And now the Gambians are also seeing him as a traitor for coaliting with a party that brought harms and damnation on the people of the Gambia. Now he's now installing, or he will install those people into power. So the general populace of Gambia may look at him as a betrayer. So as his time wants to expire in office, maybe in 2026, don't be surprised if you see that man want to amend the constitution and to continue to facilitate himself into power. So these are some of the predicament and things that nobody can be able to predict this particular man, since he has already made himself unpredictable and he's seen as a power monger, somebody who's a power drunk, can do everything for himself.
Man, thank you very much, Edward Amara. Man, in this moment in the history of Africa, we are just living in a mess, if I will use that language. The chaos is just too much. The chaos is too much on that continent. Like every door you open, nothing good is happening. The chaos is really, really, really too much. And if something is not done, this is like the systematic destruction of our people is what we are going through. Gambia, there is no good story since the day of Jawara until this moment. And the man who was supposed to be a breath of fresh air is the man we are talking about. It's the man we are talking about that is on the verge of collapsing the entire country again, and the Gambia need to restart. This coalition, we call it Evil Union, that he formed with Gambia, is going to explode. It's not going to work. And when it explodes, he's going to be like someone who is drowning, and when the man is drowning, he can hold anything to survive. And Barrow trying to hold anything, he's ready to destroy the country just for him to stay in power. It's very unfortunate that this is happening to Gambia, and it needs to be, politicians need to be smart enough to be able to counter this. Otherwise, 2026 will have something worse than what we are having right now. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we have one more question to discuss. What are the ways the opposition itself need to position itself in order to face these political challenges, instead of taking it in a wrong direction that it will affect the entire nation as well. So let's take a short break. Please stay with us as we discuss this topic. Welcome back. Sorry, there was some glitches there, so I couldn't follow what's happening. So sorry for the technical problem. You are watching Focus on Liberia. This is Roundtable Africa, and we are discussing an interesting topic today, a political topic. President Barrow re-election and rejection by the opposition. This is the Republic of the Gambia, and the opposition there is rejecting the election results. They said there are a lot of irregularity. They believe the president cheated, and there are a lot of demonstration going on in the country. And the president is saying that he won the election landslide, and he's going to continue with his mandate. This is the topic we are discussing. And the next question here, Edward Amara, what are the major challenges he will face in his second term in the hot seat? I think you highlighted some of those points already. One would be the issue of Yahya Jammeh. Okay, he entered into an evil marriage. Now he has to face the consequences, the dilemma. You either protect Jammeh and then kind of dash out the TRC report and reject it in entirety just to protect Jammeh, or implement the TRC and then the Jammeh guys go after you. And don't rule out military coup d'etat. For me, Africa is unpredictable. Don't rule out military coup in the Gambia. Trust me, and you can mark my word. Why? Yahya Jammeh was a soldier, and he's sitting down right now in Equatorial Guinea. He has money, he has logistics, and he still have his boys in the army. He allowed this first term to go because the tension was so high. The entire West Africa was behind this coalition that brought Barrow to power. They wanted democracy. So Yahya Jammeh decided to chill a little bit. But now that things are going on, and you know the military always take opportunity when there is chaos. They use chaos to come to power. When there is chaos in the democratic process, politicians are fighting, then they come in. So they come in as saviors, even though they are not saviors in most time, but they always come in as saviors. This is what we had in Guinea. A savior came from nowhere because the politicians were quarreling. So what is happening in Gambia? If they are not able to control it, Barrow might not survive till the next election. I know what I'm talking about because Africa have the record of that. It will ever be an attempted coup, or there will be an outright coup to remove him and say, we are trying to reset the whole thing and start all over again. This man came to power and there is chaos, and the person will remain. Another challenge that he's likely to face is the opposition. And remember, the country is divided on tribal lines, just like you have in most West African countries. So the main opposition leader, Dabo comes from the Mandinga ethnic group, and they are almost like 30% of the population. So the Mandinga ethnic group is represented by Dabo. And then you have the Fulani guy, the man that represent the Fula ticket. I don't know whether he joined Barrow this time, Mama Kande. There was one other guy there, was another candidate. Then you have Barrow, who happened to be in the middle because he said he's from both Fulani and the Mandinga side, but he is now well received in the Mandinga cycle. So I think the Fulanis and other ethnic group and the Wolof minority and all, I think they are the ones that are voting for him. So you also have another young man that came up, Halifa Sallah. Halifa Sallah, who is a very well-known intellectual, but he is not a Mandinga. I think he comes from the Wolof ethnic group there, the Sere Wolof group. That's where Halifa Sallah come from, in the Banjul area there. So Halifa Sallah was part of the coalition, but he broke away from Barrow and decided to form his own party. He is a socialist and a Pan-Africanist. In fact, by far, for me, he is one of the best intellectuals in Gambia. He understands Pan-Africanism, he understands the history of the country, but he has never been given the opportunity. He was the spokesperson of the coalition that brought this guy to power. But now, what is happening in the country? Well, eventually, if this guy, secure, everything goes well, and then he continues with the second mandate, and then he stays in power, this coalition, the tribalism will go into the parliament, because the Dabo party, UDP, will have their own representative. They will make sure that Barrow does not have he does not pass any bill. They will make sure that they counter anything he sent to the parliament. And then Halifa Sallah also will do that. So he will be having a lot of tension. Then eventually he will now have to look for support that will be only in Jammeh camp. The only way he will get support is the Jammeh camp. And going to the Jammeh camp will mean to betray the entire nation, because the current history of the country is based on the fact that Yahya Jammeh was a tyrant and he was removed, and all his cronies and all his friends need to be prosecuted. And the only way for this guy to stay in power is for him to overturn that and make sure that Yahya Jammeh and his group are protected. So for me, it's a very dangerous situation. And the only way out of it, if they don't solve it, the army will come in. The army will definitely come in. That's my fear.
Yeah, I think I can't agree with you more. I think Yahya Jammeh, Mr. Barrow has constructed the mistake. He has carefully constructed the mistake of his life. Maybe I can say carefully and ignorantly constructed the mistake of his life. Having said that, we are watching at the Gambia military to be de-radicalized and depoliticized. If Mr. Barrow was actually going to rule the Gambia on a kind of a patriotic basis, especially in the name of the Gambians who elected him. Unfortunately, the military is no longer going to be de-radicalized and depoliticized, because he has given the opportunity of those who constructed the suffering of the Gambians over 2 decades ago to find themselves once in the corridor of power. As you rightly stated, Mr. Barrow should be very careful, because if you are eating with the enemy, you should remember always to use the longest fork, because anytime when you use the longest forks, you may have the opportunity to see what he may want to insert into the food, either a poison or whatsoever thing. Now he has brought those people very close to him whom he's unseated out of power, and now those people are actually in the hot seat of it. So, as you rightly stated, Mr. Jammeh may have left in the Gambia, but he was a military man. He served under peacekeeping force in Liberia. He went back, he took over power, empowered the military, created secret police force, and had the old army. And most of those who are top ranking officers into the army, we are named into this TRC report. And should the TRC report be taken by the letter, most of those army officers are going to be prosecuted, because it's from his own killing squad. And those people have now seen themselves almost at the corridor of power with their political party coming in. So what they are going to do in the first place, to ensure that they tackle Mr. Jammeh and Mr. Barrow's every move for him to implement the TRC report. But if he insists on implementing the TRC report, they can easily incite the security forces of the nation through communication, because they will have some saying into the government of the Gambia. And the military also know that they are also being indicted. So should their boss be prosecuted, a lot of heads are going to roll into the Gambia. So Mr. Barrow's own safety is something that is questionable. Now, that would be some of the headache that he would face with the ruling coalition, because let us push for Mr. Jammeh prosecution would like be pushing for the prosecution of the ruling party or the ruling coalition, pushing for the prosecution of most of those top military officers and top military police officers who may not want to find themselves behind bars in the next future. Now, the entire Gambians are complaining. You have active civil society members, you have active social media, you have journalists, you have people who believe in human rights institutions. And the TRC report has already been released. What they are going on to do is to push first for the TRC report to be read to the people, and those recommendations should be implemented. But the recommendations are going to be implemented, it means going against the wishes of the coalition. Now it's going to have a kind of general cry. And we all know that violence is the result of the voice of the unheard. So if Mr. Barrow refuses to prosecute those who bear the greatest responsibility into the crimes that we are committed into the Gambia under Yahya Jammeh's regime, it will be indirectly qualifying the dubious, the corruption, the wickedness, the humiliation, the destruction of the economy, and annihilation of people. Is like qualifying them to do it, and also establishing the culture of immunity. Don't be surprised if you see popular demonstration into the Gambia, although the Gambians are not known to demonstration, because they have been led by an iron fist person who led them with an iron hand, and they know exactly what it takes for you to demonstrate against a military-led government. Now all of those things are going to be there. So he's going to be facing headache with the general population, headache with the ruling coalition, and also being afraid of what the military may likely do to him, because now he's not seen as a trusted person. And the coalition or the opposition are also going to form a very strong coalition to actually lambast, reprimand, and criticize each and every of his move. And those things, you don't expect to be constructive criticism from the opposition now, because they have been seen, they are going to move with each and every vindictive song to ensure that Mr. Barrow's, even when he's doing something that is good, is being condemned. So these are some of the trials that he's going to expect to face. And he wants also to fix the economy. Now we're also going to watch at the international community. Is Adama worth of being trusted? He has betrayed them one, he's also going to betray them. But he's the elected person into the Gambia. So we are going to see forces like that are going to move. And for now, I think nobody's safe into the Gambia until we see what may be the outcome of the ruling coalition. And when the TRC report is being read to the nation, the recommendation, how are those recommendations going to be implemented, and what may be the reaction of the media, that is the journalists, the electronic and print media, what may be the reaction of the general populace, the civil society activists, and you think about other human rights organizations, what may be the response? And even Amnesty International, what may be their response? Because they may also make certain recommendations if they realize that Mr. Barrow's government is not willing to prosecute those who committed crimes into the Gambia. It's like he's trying to what? To radicalize his government. When they were thinking that it was a kind of government that would de-radicalize everything to the Gambia, but now the man is a known radical. And I'm not talking that, I'm not watching that thing as a positive radical, rather is a negative one.
Definitely, Adama Barrow is a disappointment. You know, when I look at the way he came to power, I think he was underestimated by a lot of people. Even the coalition that brought him to power, they underestimated the guy. He was not an ambitious guy. He was someone who was just doing a normal job in Europe to survive. And then he was secretary to the coalition that they just formed. So they were the main traditional opposition, people who went through hell, like the lawyer Dabo, like the Halifa Saleh, all those people that really stood against Jammeh. They were there, but when they formed the coalition, they were just trying to experiment. I think they didn't really have that hope that to win, but they just wanted to test the democratic process because they believe Jammeh used to win election 90%, 98. In fact, sometimes there was a time he won 88, and he was angry that why did he win 80% or 88%? That he wants to win 100%. So the opposition felt that there's no way to defeat this guy. So they took someone who was not known, someone who is now politically known, and said, no, come and be the head of our coalition so we can just test the waters. Then the guy went and then he won. So he sat down there now. They were like, okay, maybe we put him there after a few years, we can change him and put real politicians and intellectuals into power so that they can run things. And the guy said, no, I'm not going anywhere now. Now the guy they underestimated has now become a new tyrant, a new sheriff in town. He's now making new rules. He's changing the whole game. You see, so that is the problem with African politics. The problem with African politics is that these leaders are not honest. The honesty issue is not there. The character is not there. These guys are not honest. We have to really be frank with our and look in the mirror. You know, somebody wrote today on Facebook and said, the corruption in Africa, in the politics, in the system, it should be blamed on the people and not just the leadership. And I said, I disagree. The people, in their majority, are not having any power, even though democracy is the power of the people. The people always delegate their power to leaders. So these leaders are the ones now who are being entrusted with power. They are closer to resources and power. They are the ones who should be accountable. They are the ones who should be able to exercise or to bring out that honesty, put the greater good of the people in front of everything. So you cannot blame the people who are victims. The majority of the people are victims. So you don't blame them. If you look at the country, so why do the people vote on tribal basis? Why wouldn't they? This is the consciousness that the politician put out there. When you go out to campaign, what kind of language, what points of argument do you give to the people? You tell them that I'm from this tribe and I'm from this religion and I'm from this region of the country, so vote for me. So you play on their sentiments and that's where they vote. But if you change that language and then you now present only your plan, put the tribe away, put the religion away, and vote based on your competence, campaign on your manifesto, then you will change the mindset of the people. But you, the politicians, you are the one who create this problem you think you're trying to solve. You created the poverty, you created the disunity, you created the tribalism, you created all these problems. Then you act like saviors. You are not saviors. You are the perpetrators, and the people are the victims. So this is the reality of the African continent. We are discussing Gambia today, but if you move from Gambia to Senegal, you have similar situation. You have a man who is in power called Macky Sall. He's selling the country to France. And a young man is coming in to take over Ousmane Sonko, and he's trying to make sure that the boy does not run for a re-election. I mean, for election. He even put a rape crime and all those things on him, playing dirty politics You have that right in Senegal. Okay? Then next to Senegal, you have Guinea-Bissau. Guinea-Bissau is there with a lot of problems. So Guinea, you move from Guinea-Bissau, you move to Guinea. Is Guinea any better? No. We have a new guy in town who is pretending to be a savior, but who was in the former regime. You know, he was a killer in the former regime. Then suddenly he became the savior of the people. Then you move from Guinea, you enter Liberia. Are we any better? No, we have a soccer legend sitting now on our throne, you know, acting as a king. So this is the situation in Africa. The politicians are not honest. This continent is dying and the people are dying. And we have leaders who are not even conscious, who don't even feel it. They don't even see the pain of the people. People don't really realize the situation that Africa is in. If you really travel out here, you see how the rest of the world is moving. You cry for this continent. You cry. You will cry. You will sit down and really cry because we are dying. We are dying. We don't have leaders to step up. We don't have leaders who feel the pain. When somebody dies or natural disaster happens or there's poverty here, a leader who will feel the pain, who can wake up in the middle of the night and say, what can I do for my country? How do I move the country? How do I move 3 to 5 million people out of poverty and give them middle income? How do I change the infrastructure of this nation? How do I change the mindset and the culture of my people? Why we don't have leaders like that? We have leaders who want to score political points, who want to make sure that the opposition know how strong they are. We want leaders who want to have a petty argument around the country, who are not really having vision to transform the destiny of their people. Are we children of a lesser God? Are we unfortunate? Are we cursed? What is wrong with the African people? There is no good news on around the continent. There is no good news. Ethiopia is dying as we speak. The country is divided into two. Rebels are taking over. The leadership is fighting to maintain it. But when you look at it, you blame the rebels for attacking the government of Ethiopia. But in reality, the government has been marginalizing those people for decades and nobody is talking. And those people decided not to fight for themselves and they are seen as rebels. Why couldn't you prevent that in the first place? Why is it that there is one rule for one group of people in a country and there's another rule for another group of people? Why is there no rule of law to protect everybody? Why are citizens not equal in African countries? Why are people not judged based on their competence? But they must be judged based on their religion, their tribal affiliation, and where they come from. How do you expect to build a prosperous nation? All of us here, we move, we travel abroad, we come to America. And when we go there, people are voted based on their competence. Nobody asks them, you are Irish American or you are German American. Nobody talk about Trump being German American. Nobody talk about Biden being Irish American. Nobody cares. They are talking about his Democrat or his Republican. What is a political ideology and what can you contribute? That's how you know that people have evolved culturally. They have evolved intellectually. That's how you know. Okay? So let's not start playing around here that we have countries. We don't have countries. We have tribal, how they call it. I don't even know how to qualify them. And our election are just tribal census to know which tribe is higher than the other. It's not election. It's not a democratic process. We are not there yet. We don't have countries. When you say you have a country, you have economic and military sovereignty. We don't have that. We don't have countries yet. But we are pretending that we have states, we have this and that, we are making noise all around here. We are an endangered species. For me, I consider Africans to be an endangered species. That if something is not done, we can be wiped out anytime from the surface of this earth. And those who are joking with that, they don't know history. They don't know how far we've been wiped out. From North Africa, it was all black. We were wiped out from there. In the Middle East, Israel, going down to that place, black people were all over that place, Palestine. We were wiped out from there. We were pushed down until in that little place that they call Sub-Saharan Africa. And we can still be wiped out. South Africa was almost taken over by white people. Thank God for Mandela. We will be wiped out if we don't fight to build strong nations based on true justice, based on true prosperity, and have put leaders in power who are competent and get away with all the tribal thinking, Get away with all the religious thinking and put all of them in the closet and let's face reality. Let us be like the rest of the world. We were not created to be followers of the human race. We were not created to be taking handouts from United Nations. We were not created to be the sorrow of humanity. We were not created to be the sorrow of the human race. That everybody eat and the crumbs, they give it to the black people. When everybody wear clothes, they tie away it, they send it to the black people as Doka Flare. When everybody, anything they use, they tie away it, they use it as a dump site. I know I'm going off topic a little bit, but just to stress you, the frustration that is on that continent. Every country you touch, there is problem, political problem. Leaders get into power, they become wicked. They oppress the same people that went in the rain and the sun to vote for them. Then you turn around every Friday, you go pray. Every Sunday, you go to church and you turn around, you're going to Holy Land, you're going to heaven. All of you are candidates for hell. What kind of heaven you're going to? You leave a country where millions of people are dying of disease and you are living in mansions. You treat your family abroad. Then you say God is listening to your prayers. We are the most wicked people on this planet because we fail to take care of our citizens. We fail to take care of our own people. We have politicians who are evil. They do not have a single pity in their mind. And it's not even we, the poor, that are on the lower part of the ladder. Tomorrow, if we are given opportunity to rule, we become worse. We even forget that we were in the slums. We forget that we were also suffering. We forget that we were also among the people who were crying. Once we get that power, we shut up. We change overnight. We start driving Rolls Royce. If this is not changed, my people, we're going nowhere. They're beeping English. We are speaking. The European language we are going about speaking is taking us nowhere. What will take us somewhere is concrete plan. We have to really love our people, love ourselves, love our country, and do something. When you have opportunity, you are closer to power, sacrifice. Sacrifice for the nation. Sacrifice for the country. Do not look for power to be praised and people singing and dancing for you. Don't think it's something good. Do something concrete for your people. Otherwise, Africa is going to hell. We will just be singing the one song, discussing one thing over and over. It's the same from frying pan to fire. Wicked generation. Every generation we produce since the 1800s, they are wicked, they are insensitive, and they do not have pride, no dignity. A black man president will go and walk on red carpet in white people country, and he come back and he see his people in the slums, and he doesn't have that pain. He go build duplex for himself. You don't have that pain. What kind of leader are you? What kind of leader are you? Huh? You get sick, you transport yourself abroad and go get treatment. When you come back, you meet these poor people. They cannot afford. You meet mothers are dying. Have you visited these hospitals to check what is going on? You don't feel the pain. You don't think there's a huge responsibility given to you by the Creator to lift up your people? We do not have leader with compassion. So for me, I think instead of even preaching politics, instead of preaching all the PP political grammar, we should start teaching even compassion and love in African society, in our school. Compassion, simple compassion and love for our people. If we can have that, I think we can solve a lot of problems. Do we even love the people we are ruling, we are governing? Do we really love them? Do we love them? Or we just want to get more money? We don't love them. If we love them, the problem will be solved tomorrow. Because the same way we transport our family abroad to give them treatment, that's the same love we apply to the people. But we don't love these people. You stop pretending on politics, all your senators and representatives, you don't love the people. Stop pretending. If you love them, you won't treat yourself abroad. You will build a hospital and go there and lie down. The same hospital that you build for them, you go there for treatment. Send your children to the school that you build for them. If these things are not done, our countries are going nowhere. Gambia is a mess because the leaders don't love the country. And the current president, he's happy now. He won a re-election. They are going to celebrate. They are going to dance. Tomorrow morning, the citizens will continue to cry. The suffering continue. And those from his tribal group, they will be dancing in suffering. They will be suffering and be dancing because the man is from their tribe. And they are happy to see someone from their ethnic group in the higher position, even if they are not even benefiting anything. It's a very poisonous way of thinking, a destructive way of thinking. It's like we have moved out from civilization, we've come to a barbaric way of living. And it's unfortunate for the black race, and Africa is paying a huge price, very huge price. Folks, thank you very much for coming to Roundtable Africa. I went off topic a little bit just to highlight some of the things that are happening around the continent, how politically, nothing good is happening around Africa, to be frank with you. And there's a lot of problem going on in West Africa in particular. We are now threatened by Islamist groups are coming. They are coming very close. Very soon, all of you in the Mano River Union, I think you are safe. The terrorists are coming very close. And then we will all be in that mess with the poverty, with the war, with tribalism, then with the religious war. We will be in a big mess. And let nobody convince you with big grammar that things will be okay. Nothing will be okay until the leadership changes attitude, it changes its mentality. Nothing will be okay. There is no manner of prayers you will do that will change your nation. Prayers don't change nations. If prayer change nation, Israel will not have Iron Dome protecting Jerusalem. If prayer can change nation, Saudi Arabia will not have the highest, some of spend more than almost, I don't know, 20% or 50% of their GDP on military, on security, and United States protecting them. Billions of dollars they spend worth of arms to protect their city. If prayer were protecting nation, they will not invest like that. Israel will not invest on the highest technology called the Iron Dome to protect Tel Aviv, protect Jerusalem, and protect their cities. They will be praying to Yahweh and Allah to come and save those cities. But they don't. It's science, it's practical, it's knowledge, it's logic, it's what they are using. So you'll sit down there and say, the law will protect the nation. They will bump you will be sitting down and say, the law will protect the nation. You think other nations, then the law not protecting? They are working hard. The law does not protect anybody that don't protect himself. You need to do something for yourself. Otherwise, your prayer is in vain. You don't pray for rice to grow on your farm. You go to the farm and plant the rice. You don't grow for water to get in your cup. You dig the well and get the water. This is the way the world works. If you don't understand it, then you can keep praying until we see where Africa will get to with prayers. With that, I want to close. And with our usual song, we are all Liberians.
We are Liberians.